Hey, mess makers. Do we like that name? We're working on it. Before we dive into today's episode, I just wanted to take a moment to personally invite you to join the Messy mailing list. This is where I will be dropping exclusive content, including tools, sneak peeks on what's coming up, and yes, I will be sharing a personal story and part of my journey that I've actually never shared on the podcast. So seriously, you don't want to miss this. Oh, and I want to hear from you guys. So if you have any questions or thoughts, this is your way to get interactive with me and with Inside Out. So make sure you head over to the show notes to sign up, and I'm super excited to get messy with you guys. All right, back to the episode. Welcome back to the Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Jojo, and this is where we will navigate the mess together. That is mental, emotional, and spiritual. Let's get messy. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Out. I hope you all are staying warm wherever you are in the world. I know here in the United States and basically every part of the country, it is freezing cold. And I know I for sure have been complaining because it has been 9 degrees outside. And I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, I usually in the winter walk around saying, oh my gosh, I hate New York. I don't want to be here. It's way too cold. And my mom actually made a comment about how I haven't once in the last week, when it was 9 degrees outside, said, I hate New York, which is all about what I'm going to be talking about today. The power of our words and how our words really do shape our reality. Now, there's so many quotes, and I just wanted to read a few because these are people that I think people will identify with. One of them is Marcus Aurelius, of course, and his quote is, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." Now, if I'm walking around just thinking about how much I hate New York, I'm going to be miserable all day long. Buddha says, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract, and what you imagine, you create." And I think we can all identify with that to some degree, because if we just wake up and we are just in a foul mood and we're just snippy with our family or our spouse or our partner or our roommate or our friends or at work, that is going to be an absolute mess of a day, and not our version of a mess, the real kind of mess. So having a negative mindset and speaking negatively, whether that's me saying, I hate New York, or complaining, or really whatever that is, has such a negative tinge and is kind of exhausting for the people who are listening to you complain. And also, if we're really honest with ourselves and we tune in, we don't feel very good after we just spend all our time complaining about something. We feel drained because we're pushing so much energy in that direction that could be pushed in the direction of altering that mindset or changing that thought so that our reality is a little bit sweeter. Because if I'm pissed off about how cold New York is, well, maybe that just means I need to leave New York for a little while and go somewhere warm so that I can appreciate really what New York is. Or if I'm really annoyed at my boss at work, reframing that into maybe just finding the little silver linings of, wow, I'm really lucky that I have a job. I can pay my rent. I can do the life that I want to do and live the lifestyle I want to live. In this context, like really does attract like. For instance, the red car theory. If you look for a red car, you're going to start seeing red cars everywhere. If you look for a white car, you're going to start seeing white cars everywhere. If you look for things to be negative in your life, for example, a common one that I hear a lot is men suck. Sorry, men. It's not true. You guys are great. But there's that narrative that's going around. And for my friends who, I've definitely been guilty of this too, but who have subscribed to this, ugh, all men suck, dating so hard, whatever, you're going to attract that. If that's what you believe, if that's what your thoughts are going towards, and that's where you're letting yourself believe, then you're only going to attract men that suck because you're going to be looking for that. And that is subconscious because obviously we're like, well, we want to meet a nice person or we want to meet someone who doesn't suck, but we won't because there's not this belief that there are actually good men out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely had this mindset a few years ago. And that's what I was attracting. That's what I was seeing everywhere. And then when I shifted that, I started to really see amazing men, amazing qualities, seeing even just the people my friends were dating, their spouses, and meeting really quality people because I actually was like, wait a second. If I keep believing this to be true, then nothing is going to change. Like, this is what I'm going to have in my life. To kind of switch gears a little bit, but still about our words and our thoughts, let's take it to the external for a second. When you are around people who are just talking negatively about someone or complaining or gossiping, it might be like fun in the moment, but it's at the end of the day, you kind of feel icky. And what we put out in the world, if we're talking negatively about someone, is only going to be amplified to come back on us where other people are just going to talk negatively about us. Like if you are sitting at the dinner table and you're gossiping about everything externally from yourself. Now, I do realize that there's a big difference between telling a trusted friend and confidant about what is going on in your life and challenges that you are dealing with and your perception of your reality, where you might have to fill in that friend of what you dealt with being on the receiving end of what someone else did. But that's different than being like, oh my God, you will never guess what so-and-so did. She did X, Y, and Z, and can you believe it? There's a difference of this was my experience with someone. I did this happened, this is how it went. And if there's a layer of self-reflection that's added to that, instead of pointing the finger and just making it all a one-way narrative to tear someone down or to paint them in a negative light, what is that people say when you point your finger at someone, there's 3 more fingers pointing back at you? Look in the mirror because there's a reason this is showing up in your life. And maybe there are circumstances that you're dealing with because you really need to open your eyes and make some changes. I think we're so conscious of how we spend our time and even just like what we intake in our body, like our diets. We're really specific whether we have a specific dietary restriction or we don't eat dairy or we don't eat junk food or whatever it is. We're so conscious of what goes in our body, or in our mouths, but we're not conscious of what comes out of our mouth. And you really do have the power of manifesting through your words. And I don't think people put that together in such a logical way, because if we're going to break this down in the mess, mentally, if we are constantly just complaining and projecting and gossiping and blaming and pointing fingers at other people and never looking inward, first of all, that's exhausting for ourselves. That's exhausting for everyone that's around us. But there's actually no change that can be made. And there's no manifestation that can happen. Going back to my I hate New York example, I had to shift that mindset and reestablish, because I have been really sick of New York lately. And everyone who knows me pretty well knows that my running joke is my favorite thing about New York is leaving it. And I do make it my utmost priority to get out of New York as much as possible. But there's also shifting that mindset mentally and emotionally, really tapping into what it is about New York that I love. Appreciating the work I have here, the base I have here, the life I've created for myself here for the past decade, the friendships here. Because if I'm constantly, I hate New York, I hate New York, first of all, everyone around me is going to just be like, okay, well, you're no fun. I'm not going to invite you anywhere because you just hate New York. So why would I want to spend time with you in New York if I'm here? But spiritually, your existence in the place that you hate is actually going to be very different. Now, spiritually, I've actually rewired this because I've made a conscious mental and emotional shift for myself. And instead of saying, I hate New York, I've started to reframe that and be like, you know what? No, New York has been exactly what I needed it to be for the last 10 years. I'm reestablishing my relationship with it. I'm being very conscientious of how I'm talking about it. And that's why my mom said, wow, you haven't said this. Because I'm consciously reframing it. And I'm so sick of having this mentality of, wow, I hate this place, because then my reality is miserable. I spent 3 months last year absolutely hating New York in the winter because I just kept saying this over and over and over. And guess what? My reality sucked. It was horrible. So mental, emotional, spiritual. Mentally, get clear on where you're spending your words. Emotionally, see how you can rewire it. Is there a way that you can inject any positivity into that negative thought, those negative words that you're spewing? And spiritually, it will rewire itself, because your external environment, if you start changing the way you think about it on the inside and dealing with it on the inside, is going to ripple out and affect your outside world. I mean, obviously, that's how it all works. We all know this. But really, the people around you are going to start realizing, oh, wait, there's been a shift here. And things are just going to start being different. Because as Gandhi says, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So get really clear on what those beliefs are so that your destiny is something that is empowered, that you're proud of, that is a life that is fulfilling, and that you're just living every day with a little more thought of what really comes out of your mouth. Thank you for going inside out with me this week. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow along on Instagram at _insideout.podcast. Share with a friend. Please don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good week, guys. Bye.